Did you know in America, people are still buying black children and using them as slaves?
Lance and Whitefeather kept motion-activated Arlo cameras on the children, one in the shed on the 14-year-old boy and 16-year-old girl, and one in a room upstairs with no bed, only a tarp floor that stayed on the 9-year-old girl and 11-year-old boy. The video showed a daily routine of waking up early and being forced to stand with hands on head, unable to change or shower, receiving only peanut butter sandwiches to eat before going back to bed on the floor.
In America, we tend to think of adoption as a social good, as a mechanism of child welfare, but this is adoption in America, and it gets worse for these kids.
In the shed, the teens used a camper toilet, holding a sheet up for each other to shield the other from the camera. Lieutenant Pyle said she first began hearing about this in August before the shed discovery. The testified could never quite get a hold of a CPS worker to follow up.
There was a contact made with a worker once. There was no further contact to coordinate going and making a visit to a residence together.
The jury saw days of video the Arlo camera saved, including the moments deputies busted in the door on the shed on October 2nd.
This is just one of so many examples of CPS not protecting adopted people, not following up on calls made against abusive adopters, because there's this assumption within CPS and within America that because an adopter passed a home study, they're safe and good people. It should be an embarrassment, not just for the county, not just for the state of West Virginia, but for all of America, that we send children to abusive homes in the name of giving them a better life.
The children were turned over to Child Protective Services, and when Lance and Whitefeather got back with two of the children that night, they were later arrested. But that was just the beginning of their charges and the investigation. On Friday, the jury got an inside look at Whitefeather's cell phone. This included text messages between she and Lance where they referred to the kids as monkeys and pigs.
How many adopted people have to suffer through this until we can admit it's a problem? Adopted people are suffering in this country. We are seeing stories like this coming out every month, if not every week. I've seen so many headlines about adopted people being abused, rehomed, murdered by their adopters. Yet every time I post one of these videos, I will inevitably get comments saying, well, it's just one case, it's just one person, one family. And it's like, no, this happens all the time. You just don't see the headlines because they're not front page news. The institution of adoption in America has been poisoned. It is a system that is fundamentally broken. What was once a system meant to help vulnerable children has now turned into a market where children are advertised and sold. It is past time we do something about adoption in this country.